What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Fantastic Four. Ever since we saw the glimpses of what we saw in leaked videos of footage of the movie of Fantastic Four, we were interested because of the look and feel of it. As you all know, I've been looking forward to seeing Galactus, how he spoke and all that other stuff. And although the trailers perhaps may not have gotten people super excited, but the closer we got to this film, I think people started to get more excited for this film. And if you go back to our shows, I've said, this movie looks good. This movie looks good. And then you hear the people talking about it, not one really saying anything bad about it, Brian.
Test screenings were not great. Remember, we heard a lot of mid, average, like there was stuff there that was concerning in the earlier cuts.
Probably, but now that the movie's out, I think people, after they've seen the movie, haven't had that same sort of reaction.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Because they did the reactions were in response to the first 30 minutes of the film, and then obviously they showed the full film for critics. But that reaction has been much different and much better than the test screening. So whatever feedback, similar to maybe with Superman, whatever feedback Fantastic Four, Matt Shackman, Kevin Feige received, and whatever they changed, that has resonated with critics and audiences alike, and we'll get into that.
Was it any different in terms of the experience of the people, the chatter, comparing this movie to Superman before you went in?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think with the Prime premiere, that sort of naturally self-selects into like the diehard fans and fanatics, especially of Superman in particular. So when I went to that show, it's probably similar to yours, sold out show, you see a lot of people wearing Superman paraphernalia, right? T-shirts, just all sorts of things. You could tell they're there for the character, right? They're not there just because it's James Gunn. They're not there because they are Superman fans and they haven't seen a Superman-led movie in over 10 years. Fantastic Four didn't premiere that way. Fantastic Four came with a very standard opening weekend, right? A Thursday launch, which we're talking about into the opening weekend. So no, I would say the buzz in the theater was much higher at the start of Superman than it was for this movie. But I think that's to be expected. I think if I was being fair, that's not a surprise to me.
Where do you want to begin?
So we're going spoiler free. Let's just do the initial impressions. Like when interesting thing is I think these two movies are always going to be linked, right? Superman and Fantastic Four, because they come out 2 weeks apart. They are in many ways launch points or relaunch points for the DC universe and the Marvel universe. And so I think they'll always be attached at the hip in the eyes of history. Yeah. So you remember your vibe coming out of Superman. What was your impression and vibe as you were watching Fantastic Four and then kind of leaving the theater?
I was immersed. Watching what I had said would be the spectacle of what Galactus would be.
I texted you the one word as I was sitting there. I was like, I can't
Galactus
tell him anything because I think I was watching it a little before you, technically, in the clock. I was just like, Galactus, exclamation point, when he first appeared on screen. I was just like...
The Silver Surfer, I didn't mind it, Brian, I have to say, although I was disappointed at some things, and we'll talk about those things.
Save it, because I think you and I agree, and I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
But I was glad I got to see a lot of the things that I was hoping to see in terms of the dynamics of the family, Brian. I was expecting to see certain things, and they did it. And they did it.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
That's what I'm talking about. That's the reaction I had. I literally walked out of the theater when I was about to text you to be like, they did it. These characters have been impossible to crack on the big screen for over 20 years. And I'm not saying the movie's perfect. I just said, we'll have notes. We got things we got to talk about. But I had such a rush of positivity leaving the theater, maybe because my expectations have been tempered with all of Marvel's struggles. Even though I was seeing things I liked in the look and all that sort of stuff, I was worried about Galactus being in this movie. I was worried about Surfer being in this movie. I was worried about like just Marvel face planting and how it looked, and like they were holding stuff back that didn't look as good. And I just had this like rush when I walked out of the theater of like, this is the way it used to feel, but it's different. And I like that combination. It looked different. It felt different. There were things about this that I thought were different in a positive way, but I walked out feeling like, you know what? First off, this is going to be a hit. But even if it wasn't a hit, they converted the opportunity. They got these characters back, and they gave us a real Fantastic Four movie on the big screen. And they're going to be able to do it again because this movie will succeed. But if this had been a one and done, I'd have been like, yes, you guys did it.
Yeah. They answered the question that I always had. What will this look like in the hands of the MCU? In the hands of Disney and Marvel? And they pulled it off. I have to really applaud them for going all the way with it. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone, when I came out of the movie theater, was feeling the same sort of vibe, and they enjoyed it. I think people even clapped at the end of it. They enjoyed it. I think everyone had a good time at the movie theaters.
There's so many things about this movie that really stood out to me as market changes, but I have two genre quotes in my mind, and maybe you'll pull the clips so we can get the actual ones. But the first was, I kept hearing Thor's voice.
That's more like it.
That's my number one feel. And the second one was, you were talking about the way Marvel's kind of lost its way and kind of been all over the place, and I had the Mr. Terrific quote in my head of like, hey, this ain't playtime, quit screwing around. I'm like, that's like Marvel's been screwing around for years, and they finally quit screwing around. And it made me, I will say this, I think Thunderbolt, when you compare Thunderbolts and this movie, the number one thing to me is cohesion. These two movies felt like they were well thought out. They flowed, even with their flaws, they flowed start to finish. They had a certain look. It didn't feel chopped up. It felt like there was a vision there. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of messing around stuff. And I think that is a really good sign, and maybe validates, we have a whole show on Kevin coming this weekend because he's been squawking, but it might validate some of what he's saying about simply like, yeah, he was stretched too thin, and the focus was in too many different directions. And when they really lock in still, and they really lock in and they really pay attention and they service the right building blocks, they still know how to make a damn good movie.
Yeah, they really honed in, and they understood the gravity of this. They have to build momentum towards their next Avengers films, and we'll talk about that momentum a little later as well.
Shouts to Matt Shackman, by the way.
Yeah,
first feature film. Never directed a movie before.
What did he do previously?
WandaVision. That was it. He was supposed to do Star Trek, remember? And then he left Star Trek to do Fantastic Four after John Watts dropped out. But he's never directed a feature film. I'd say he laid it down for his first time out. That's pretty good for your first time, especially when you have that much of a challenge and budget and riding on it. I mean, that's a little Rookie of the Year stuff coming from Matt Shackman.
Yeah, man.
Because this looks cinematic. That was one of my things. I didn't think the trailers looked ultra cinematic, but I thought the movie looked cinematic.
Yes. I did so too. I didn't feel like I was in a Marvel movie. I thought I was in a Fantastic Four movie.
My word for it is it looked real. That's crazy to me. But from the first montage, where they're clearly riffing on the actual space race, right? And a lot of the old camera clips you used to see of the astronauts, when people forget how publicized and how televised that race was between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And there's a montage that basically captures the feel of that. But then you realize that the entire movie's kind of shot with that same graininess, which you've sort of seen a little bit in the trailers. But everything felt real, which is crazy considering how little of the core of this movie is real in the sense of its effects, right? It's CGI. And so everything to me felt very, very tangible. And I think that's sometimes in Marvel, in recent times, especially when they've gone to space and gone to the cosmic, it has felt too cartoonish or too sloppy or too neon or too far afield. And like this went to space and I felt like I was in space. Like I felt like I was in outer space.
Yes. Absolutely. They did a magnificent job at showing that not only Reed, they did a fantastic job at showing that everyone was smart, but Reed was on another level. Let's get into, I guess, the performances, Brian.
Shackman's getting a high mark here, especially given degree of difficulty and no experience. But before we leave him, the combination of WandaVision, which is aging pretty well as a series, and now dropping this movie into the Marvel catalog, I would venture to say Matt Shackman will be doing more with Marvel in the near future. I don't think they can afford to let him leave. And we've seen where Marvel starts to ride the horses and when they deliver success. And he's about to deliver success.
Okay, so he's been a director for some time. And he's but not like this. It's been mostly TV. So let me just name a few that perhaps you'd probably recognize. I mean, he only directed one episode of Boston Legal. I mean, he had directed a few other things prior to that, but he directed one episode of 6 Feet Under, which was a very popular show. He also directed one episode of Hung, one episode of Weeds. I saw some really House. Mad Men was
right. So these are prestige shows, but these are not $200 million intergalactic movies. This is a huge leap for his skill set.
But he did 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, an episode of Billions. It's his ability to tell a story, Brian, I think what works here. And having to direct multiple characters, because in a TV series, you need everybody to be working on a high level. So I think that experience lend itself to this movie.
And so I would say to the TV point, the parts of this movie that feel TV to me or prestige TV are the family parts where you don't have in TV, you don't have the budget to rely on a huge set piece, right? So you have to convince people with conversation a lot of the time and performance. And he does that here. But the set pieces are pretty good. Like he's not bad. Like there's a couple in here where I was like, I feel like if you don't see it on a giant screen, you're kind of missing out on, and sometimes with Marvel, I don't feel that way. Like there's definitely been Marvel movies where I'm like, if you streamed that at home, you'd be fine. This one, there's a couple where you're like, nah, you should go big screen see this.
This is one of those movies that you'll rewatch.
Oh my God!
Over
yes,
and over.
I can't
over
wait
and
to see it
over
again.
Yes,
can't wait to see it again.
Yes. Let's start off with Johnny.
Interesting. Can I start somewhere else? Can I start with the Collective?
Sure, with the Fantastic
Four. I think
Four?
that's what the 4 of them together.
Oh yeah, worked.
And I just want to applaud both DC and Marvel that in the span of 2 weeks, Superman, Lois, Lex, and you can even throw in the Mr. Terrific honorable mentions, and then the 4 of these characters, plus I'll put in Ralph Ineson in particular for his voice work. That is a high hit. Like if you told me the hit rate was going to be 95%, which is kind of basically what it's been in those 2 movies, I'd say you're crazy with what we've gotten in the last 5 years. Yeah. So I need to applaud both houses because the collective cast in Superman works, led by their leads. This is a more intimate cast. There aren't that many characters in this Fantastic Four movie. Why? Because they need to focus on 4 people. And I think the MVP is that the four of them together work. We can try to break it down into individuals, but this is the definition of a team. This is a team where you can't just pull one of them out. You really need to look at them in tandem, in dialogue, in combination with each other, because the movie wisely puts them in frame together most of the time.
And does a great job of fast tracking us as to what happened to them, how they became celebrities. I thought that all that was done brilliantly.
This is going to be the new thing. Origin stories, we done for the most part. The code's been cracked on a lot of these now to where they're like, hey, we can give you a montage, we can give you a little flashback, or we can just assume you know and save the time.
Don't waste my time!
And it worked. It worked really well here. You got what you needed.
Yeah.
You got what you needed.
Yeah, man, you right, man. The space stuff looked like space. Yo. It was a sight to behold.
And he was
in IMAX.
And he was riffing clearly on Interstellar. There's a couple shots in there that are very like Nolan homage. He's riffing on 2001. He's riffing on like Buck Rogers and Lost in Space. Like you see, but the thing is, there's something about the color schemes. There's something about the way space looks in this where you're just like, I can go there with you in a way that like in Quantumania and the Marvels in particular, you're like, that's just purple gobbledygook on screen, man. That looks cheap. Like I don't get that. I don't feel that.
And not to mention a little bit of Superman looked like that too, but crappy.
The anti-proton river scene.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same color scheme.
Same team.
Yeah. So this movie was like, yeah, it's like, okay. Like I felt suited up. I felt like I was on board, and that's not easy, especially when we're talking about, giant purple guy in a helmet and a surfing silver woman around. Like, that's not easy to make that feel serious.
I also have to say about we talked a lot about Superman being or feeling like a comic book movie. This also felt similar as well, but I think I would go and say better. I had a better time watching this movie than I did Superman.
I'm going to translate the pages into something historical, and you're going to feel that. So I didn't feel comic booky. I got to be honest. I didn't feel that. I felt very. Like I said, I felt like almost
to me because of the colors, because of the characters, and all the set pieces. It just looked to me like a comic book brought to life in just a different way. I would say.
Interesting. Okay, so we didn't feel that one quite the same way. All right, collective. You wanted to start with Johnny. I have a guess. Why did you want to start with Johnny?
I wanted to just start from the team and work my way up to Reed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you think Johnny?
Not to say that
you have Johnny at the bottom of this?
No, I think he did a good job as Johnny, but Johnny has always been Johnny. Okay. But he was certainly a better Johnny out of all the Johnnies we've seen. Still having some of that friendly play between him and Reed and the Thing, Ben. So that was still kept, and I think he did a good job with that. And I think, again, the way he was used, not so dissimilar from what we've seen in the past, but his usefulness, I think, they pulled that off.
I think maybe this is the way I'll put it, relative to the expectations I had for each of the characters, I think he exceeded my personal bar for him more than any of the four did.
Okay.
I really did. I liked what Quinn did because I liked that I was worried he was going to go too goofy because a couple of shots in the trailer made it seem that way. And in fact, at least one of those shots didn't even make it into the final cut. Yeah. He is certainly brash and he's certainly playful, but he's not over the top. And I liked that he wasn't over the top. And I liked that he actually had some noble moments with heart. I will also say that on screen, I did immediately pick up on the visuals because we know from Kevin Feige's statements that they basically cast Vanessa Kirby first and built the family around her. And Johnny obviously has to be her brother. And I thought that he very much looks like he could be related to Vanessa Kirby with the way he's got his hair cut and dyed and his eyes being blue, the way they're shot. Like, so when I see them like in the scenes where they're like next to each other, I was like, I see that in a way that I didn't see Joseph Quinn necessarily in some of his other performances, like most notably Gladiator 2. So I actually think Johnny punched above his weight in this movie. But because I came in kind of thinking, well, I don't know what he's going to do that Chris Evans already didn't already, right? And I feel like he actually did find some ground that was a little different and worked for me.
Yes.
So to me, this was in line, but that's only because I hold Edmund Moss Bachrach in such high esteem already. And so I was like, I would say for me, the voice was like a 5%. It bothered me. And it's only because I've seen every episode of The Bear. And so I keep hearing and seeing Richie because they didn't doctor his voice. But I will say this, the Thing looked good. Like I thought the Thing effects or costuming and makeup worked. I think the physics worked. Like he looked heavy. He moved heavy. They didn't cheat me on that. And Edmund Moss Bachrach is awesome. Like I think he's kind of like the glue. That's how I felt like he's like the glue of the family in the sense of he didn't really have massive shine moments per se, but it's almost like he's connecting to other family members or he's doing different things where you're like, the scene doesn't work if he's not there. He's just not the centerpiece of it, if that makes sense. Almost understated performance from a character who by definition seems sort of over the top because of how he looks. So no complaints. I think you probably could have said of the four, maybe he's a little underutilized. Like it's hard to get room for all four of them. And Johnny had a bigger part than I thought he was going to have.
Yeah.
I would say Thing probably had a slightly smaller role than I thought he was going to have, all told.
I guess we'll go through them and then we'll have one last conversation regarding them as a group, because Reed with talking to the Thing and talking to Sue, talking to Johnny, those are all different sort of relationships that I think also worked. But the Invisible Woman.
So I
thought she was fantastic.
So I thought remember I said Joseph Quinn, I had the lowest bar and he cleared it. Vanessa Kirby, the bar couldn't be higher. Right? So I set the bar at A+, 10 out of 10, and I would say she easily met and cleared it. She is, to me, the heart and soul of the movie. I don't think the family works if they don't cast her. I think she's amazing. Yeah. I don't want to spoil this too much, but congratulations to somebody at Marvel who finally remembered that Sue Storm is freaking strong.
Yeah.
And in the prior iterations, they were always insistent on making her weak. And I was like, you know what? Like, let Sue do her thing. Like, she can cook with those powers. And they finally gave her like that couple moments where you're like, even the rest of the family knows, like, don't mess with her when she wants to get after it. So I like that she got to have those moments. But Kirby's great, man. She is. Yeah, she has become, for someone who's like a true thespian, she has quite the action IP resume, right? Because if you think about Mission Impossible, she steals scenes, right? Steals scenes in Fallout and Dead Reckoning. This movie is over the top preposterous, but she is so far and away the best part of Hobbs and Shaw. Like, she is awesome in that movie. Awesome as an action star in that movie as Hattie Shaw. And she's fantastic. We keep using that word ironically for this movie, but she is that in this movie. She's amazing. And so can't wait. I mean, I know you said you want to build up to Reed, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I get why you say that, but I kind of feel like in this family, we build up to Sue.
She was, I was at attention every time she spoke. I wanted to hear what she had to say. Here's the thing. The conversations had in this movie are so, like, there's not a lot of waste. Whereas
in this movie as a whole, this movie is lean, mean.
Yes, like the beginning is fast tracking this history behind the Fantastic Four. prediction before we move on. I wouldn't be surprised, and in the next 6 months to a year, they don't announce a Jetsons movie because now they see the.
This is it, man. That's the aesthetic. Are you
Yes.
kidding me? The car, the city, the tower. I mean, that's literally it. I'm sure they would say they riffed on the Jetsons to build this.
Hells yeah, they have to. If I was working in those spots, I'd be telling them, yo.
I mean, we're getting a My Little Pony live action movie. We can definitely get a Jetsons movie.
Supposedly we're doing Mighty Mouse too, right?
Yes.
Wow. But we still got no Tango and Cash. I think Samuel L. Jackson's last movie should be called Jules. He should revisit the man. What does Walking the Earth look like?
All right, you want to do Reed, or do you? What were you? Any other Sue thoughts that you had about how she was used? And
no, I think we've gotten the best of the Fantastic Four with all these guys.
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? There's nobody in the prior iterations I would take over these four. I mean, Evans versus Quinn is probably the closest conversation, but no, I would take these four hands down, and I don't think it's close.
Reed, did he change your mind?
Yes and no.
Okay. The no.
I think Reed is written really well. I think they got it in the sense of him being super smart, like next gen smart, him sometimes being socially awkward. My favorite conversation is the one where they're talking about, can't say it, the plan. And that to me, when he and Sue go at it over the plan, was the most Reed thing they could have put in that movie. Don't you think?
I was like, what is he gonna do?
I was cringing. I was like, he's not good. And I was like, oh no. I was like, no, don't do that.
But
son.
this
like,
is the craziness that
Reed
thinks. And he made it sound logical. Like, yo, he figured this out.
And then she looks at him with that human side of like, I know what you're thinking. Go for yourself, basically. Yeah. And that to me was my favorite Reed and Sue conversation because it captured how much they love each other, but
how much they know each other too.
Yes, because of how Reed's mind works, and she understands that, and so she respects it 9 times out of 10. But that one time that it crosses the line, she's having none of it. So he's incredibly well written. It captures the essence of his humanity, but also his intellect. And I also thought it also his vulnerability, because he faces his vulnerability somewhat in this movie. And it made me more excited to see that down the road, because you figure coming up against Doom at some point, he will confront his own limits to some degree. I think Pascal does a nice job of changing his standard affect in this movie. He definitely adopts a softer toned, more scholarly, almost nerdy tone. So I respect that Pedro did the homework. I do think there are moments where he gets outacted, though. Like, I feel like when he's opposite Kirby, she is outplaying him in the scene a little bit. Like, maybe some of that's by design. They want Sue to be the center of the family, to be the strongest member of the family in many regards. But there are a few scenes where I feel a little imbalance. And maybe that's because Pedro Pascal's not doing like some of his normal Pedro Pascal masculinity. He's kind of dialing that down. And as a result, it does feel like he's getting a little bit outplayed. But no, by and large, look, I mean, you were more right than I was. I mean, I think he is a very credible read. And like I said, he's scripted very well. And I think he devises ideas and things to where you're like, okay, you did not betray him being as smart as he is. You'll hate that with characters like that, right? Where it's like they're so smart and then they do comically stupid things in the movies, right? And so he doesn't, the mistakes that happen are not mistakes of stupidity. They're mistakes of things beyond his understanding. And you're right. One of the things about the dynamic, I love that as accomplished or scientific or educated as the other three are, when the chips are down, they look at him. You man. It's got to be you. And they trust it, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. Like there's a key sequence and set piece in here where like, if you were Ben, would you trust that idea? You're like, hell no. Hell no. But that's where it's like, because it's Reed, he goes with it.
They trust it.
Yes.
It was a hell of a plan. It reminded me a little bit about what, guys, if you haven't already, do yourselves a favor and watch the Silver Surfer, the first episode,
Here
please.
we go. I was waiting for when this would pop up.
You just got to watch it. The first or second episode where what happens. I think it happens a little bit later. He tells a story of how Silver Surfer betrayed him. Galactus made Zenla disappear as a punishment. He let him free of his service. He let him go free, but as for his punishment for betraying him, he made Zenla disappear, and he couldn't. He didn't know where to look, but he was on a never-ending search. Some of that stuff reminded me of what he was attempting to do with Galactus, and not being able to do something if they did that, which was wild.
What did you think of? So, what did you think of their celebrity? What did you think of Earth 828, the society, how they interact with the family, just in general, without spoiling it, but just like the way that was conveyed?
I think because of all the work they did in the beginning, you understand why they are who they are, and that they've earned that praise and fondness from other people. So it doesn't look as forced as the first iteration.
Yes, agreed. I filed this one away because there's this sort of utopian sort of idolatry that you feel to, like, the people are so, and the governments of the world are so in tune with the family, it seems like, to where like the view on this earth of superheroes I found very notable compared to what we've seen the MCU go through on Earth 616, and what you figure must be coming with the X-Men in the future and how they interact with the human society. This one I circled as sort of like, keep your eye on this, because it felt very deliberate and very sort of, we're going to set this up from this angle of how the people interact with superheroes here, and then we're going to have that collide with how we know they interact with heroes elsewhere.
It'll be a different situation, yeah.
And it could be very cool to see how that plays out for both the family and the people. So I just sort of was like, I loved how they did it, but it like, there's a couple of things in this movie where I was like, oh, that's like a whole point of discussion for how much influence these four people have. Like, we just got done watching all sorts of other movies where we debate the value of, you know, should Superman be able to go into a country and do what he wants to do? Like in Civil War, should these people have to register because they're just like they're calling the shots? And like in this movie, you see like a version of the society where like that's just handled differently. And it's in stark contrast in some ways to what we've seen before. And so I feel like that's going to come back around in some meaningful way.
Yeah, they're the individuals that people look for their counsel.
Yes. And almost take them like what they say as gospel.
Remember that thing I said? I think we touched on it real quick, but I just still loved that the dynamic that Reed had with the team, and Ben being able to decipher it to the others so that they understand. I said in the beginning, we need to see that, and and when they did it, I was like, there you go.
Yeah,
That
like I
was
said, similar to Superman, it's like when you get that core right, like your leads are cast right, and the core is right for the identity of your main characters. Like, there's only so bad your movie can be.
yeah.
Only so bad. Like your floor is immediately incredibly high. So I thought the characterizations here were very strong. You want to talk about your guy? You want to talk about Galactus?
Now this is Silver Surfer.
Okay. So as I said, there's very few actual characters in this movie, like who actually get real time. This is my least favorite. It's not to say that Julia Garner was bad. It's not to say that Surfer looked bad, because I don't think Surfer looks bad. I think the physics work. I think some of the effects and powers are pretty cool. I felt a tinge of regret when they showed a certain something in this movie where I was like, no, don't take
Yeah,
that. Don't
because you
take that,
can't.
because now you can't use it again.
That's
And
what I
I
felt
felt
like. I was like,
okay.
damn, man, they went
I could feel
there.
you feeling that. I could feel you feeling that in that scene, because I thought,
Yeah, man.
no,
When I
don't do
saw
it.
that, I was like, I was glad they mentioned that. Oh snap, okay, but like, damn, man, that's not yours. That's not
Exactly.
yours,
And now
yo.
you can't do it when now like Norrin Rad is like, where does he fit in? He doesn't fit in. It's gotta be. And I'm
He
like,
doesn't.
no.
He doesn't. We've seen.
That was it. That was it. And I mean, people see the movie, they'll see it. And as a result, look, I understand why it's in this movie, but I will say the whole arc of the server to me is the part that works the least in this movie. When we do spoilers, we'll get into it in detail. But the arc of the surfer, and if you know anything about the surfer's lineage in the comics, you kind of know what that arc winds up being. But that one aspect felt forced to me. And honestly, I didn't think it was necessary. Like when we do our spoiler, we break down the set pieces and how they resolve this movie. I don't think you needed
You didn't
I
need
don't
it.
think you needed the Surfer's arc. If you want to say you needed the Surfer because of Galactus, fine. I think the Surfer could have stayed Galactus's herald with no background, with minimum, and it would have been okay. I actually think it was made worse by the fact that they tried to give Julia Garner like more emotional weight, but kind of rushed it, and it didn't make it for me.
This was like a remix of the Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah,
Almost the same thing, yo.
but I'm saying and I get it. The essence of the Silver Surfer is he or she is forced into the role. I get that, and therefore there's a noble character inside who knows it's wrong and is fighting against it and trying to find a way out of it. But like, this was the one part of this movie that felt like they thought or feared we might not get another chance to do this, so we're going to stick it in one movie. And I just felt like it didn't add enough to justify it being in there.
I thought she looked cool.
I thought they gave the Surfer some cool things to do in the action. And I think I would have been fine if they left it at that. I think for this movie, I'd have been fine if they held, because then it also would have left open the door that you could have done something different with Norrin Rad in the future versus this version. And now I feel like this
The
is
stuff that they did in space, man. Imagine living with the Silver Surfer in space, yo, and him traveling. There goes your off-world escape into space, Silver Surfer doing all this stuff. And
well, they can still do that, but I think in this iteration, it has to be Shia LaBeouf who does it. They can't use Norrin Rad now, so that was
that's
tough.
whack, yo. That's really
Yeah, it's
whack.
not a knock on Garner, because I think that part was fine.
Yeah,
But I just think it just felt rushed. This was the only character arc that felt rushed and forced to me.
Yes, definitely. It felt cliche, and you like you said, you didn't need it, yo. You didn't need it.
Yeah, we'll explain why on the spoiler. But I was like, I saw it coming too, because the way they were setting it up, I was like, no, they're not gonna. And I was like, that's what I like. I was like, that was not called for. But
Yeah. Galactus, man. Let me say this. And I think all copies or digital copies should be done to the same thing that they did to the Bee Gees when Disco died. They put him in the streets and just rolled him over, started burning him, so they never exist because they were tired of Disco. They should do this with Rise of the Silver Surfer and Galactus in that film.
The
They should
cloud.
just
Disperse the cloud.
yes, should be destroyed. This was the arrival of Galactus that I was waiting for. It was
the best scene in the movie, in my opinion.
Yes.
Best scene in the movie, in my opinion, is the reveal.
Yeah.
It's the single best frame of the movie.
Yeah.
I won't
It's
spoil
spectacle.
it. It's just like that was the most cinematic thing where you're on this giant screen and the way they don't show him and then he appears is like everything I wanted in this character. I think Galactus is so I'm the one who was like, why is he in the movie? Blah, blah, blah. He's incredibly well executed. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
The visuals work. They dial down the purple the right amount. He's still purple, but he's not silly purple. So it looks like it makes sense. I will say this. In this case, I liked that they kind of wet the beak a little bit in terms of his motivation, his background. You got a little bit of it. You didn't get all of it. But you got enough to be like, this ain't no run-of-the-mill kaiju.
Regular dude,
guy, right? And so that's why, like, when he comes back, and he will come back at some point, there is a lot of material there to work with. It's not quite the same as the Thanos turning to the screen, but it's a little bit of that DNA of like they're teasing you with every scene that he's in, and he looks great. He looks great. And I will say this. There's a couple of shots that he gets. I don't know if you were thinking the same thing, but in my mind, I'm just thinking, Voltron. Do not. This is it. It's got to look and feel this heavy and this substantive when we get the lions and we get the road beasts, because like this thing felt legit when he is in motion.
There was a piece, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the spoiler review. There was a piece where I thought they could have done something here, and I don't know why they entirely skipped it. I thought would have been, I think it would have been something dope to see, but they didn't do it.
Fair. But Innocent's voice is great. If you don't know Ralph Ineson, like just grab an interview from the press tour. He has one of the most incredible, distinctive, natural speaking voices. And he's an inspired choice. They manipulate the voice, but that first conversation, like he's batting 1,000.
It's Galactus, man. It's Galactus. It's what Galactus should have been in the beginning, yo. I would if the movie would have been bad, I still would have been happy with that.
I don't want to spoil it too much, but one thing I loved about the conversation, and this is very Galactus. He's not a lumbering fool. Like he knows stuff beyond what Reed knows. And that was one of my favorite exchanges where Reed is like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But he's so right and so sure that it makes them scared.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a great little exchange where you like see this guy who thinks he's so smart, who is so smart. And then he's like blindsided in this conversation.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you just see the fear and the uncertainty on Pascal's face. It's a great job by him in that moment. And Galactus is just telling them how it is, like very casually. And they're like, oh no, like we in trouble. We in trouble right now.
Yeah, that's why you see in the trailer. Are we gonna be safe? I don't know.
No. Yeah.
I don't know.
So I love it. I love that they did it. It doesn't look cheap. It leaves you wanting more, which I think in the case of this character is great. I don't think I would have wanted all the bullets fired in this film. You want like a little intro to him. And yes, I'm not spoiling it too much to say that he's still around. He doesn't get magically destroyed. Like he'll be around in the universe. And that's a great thing for all of us.
Damn, I wish we could do spoiler because there was some scenes.
It's actually harder with this movie than Superman, I think, not to. But I think the other thing that I got to give what felt very vintage Marvel to me, if we're right, and I think we are, having seen this movie, that this is the beginning of the reset, the beginning of the pivot. This movie did an amazing job of world building without world building. If I give this movie the area where I give this movie the biggest edge over Superman is that Superman is very consciously and overtly working hard to bring you into a world, but introduce you to a ton of characters, right? Just throw a lot at you and say, like, I'm just going to overwhelm you with this, but it's going to be fun. And then I'm going to come back to it later. This movie is so tight and so lean. There's none of that. You're literally spending time with like 6 characters, 7 if you count Herbie. But at the same time, it's also building a world for you to inhabit. And I love that about this movie, that it is both self-contained and opens doors, which is what vintage Marvel used to be, right? Like Iron Man 1 is the definition of that. It is so self-contained, but at the same time, it shows the way to these gigantic doors to the future. And I felt like this movie accomplished that in a really, really rewarding way.
Yeah, I just found myself just staring at the screen and watching what was happening, and some of the scenes were just breathtaking, and some of the things that occurred with the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four were like, wow, imagine, just imagining what a Silver Surfer movie would look like. And the things that they pulled, it was just really good. Really well done. I have to applaud them, man. They did a hell of a job here, man. Do you want to sort of talk about the mid-credit scene?
Felt great. I felt great about it because, it was what Marvel credit scenes are supposed to be. It's supposed to tease me something. And in this case, generally speaking, you generally knew what it had to tease. So I'm just glad it didn't tease too much.
Right. I just think the way they went about it was sort of lazy. Like,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I just thought, oh, he's there already. Like, there wasn't anything Doom would do, I think. I mean, we talked about it before. Like, that's what we would probably see. You even asked the question, what would you think if it was him, with the baby? We were saying this. Like when we talked about Syndrome with the baby.
So I don't know. I was fine.
I would have been better. But I would have been better off, Brian. They did something Doom, like something Doom would do. Like what's this fly flying around?
Oh,
and then I would have preferred that than that moment.
I guess I liked it because they obviously drop an Easter egg to him and throughout a couple of times in the movie, right? There's a Latveria reference, right? And so it's conspicuous, and so I think I was okay with it. I was just, why I was okay with it? Because we didn't see Robert Downey's face. Maybe that's why I was okay with it. Because it was the first test of his ego, and we passed it. Because technically he has the mask off, but like you don't see Robert. I mean, at this point we know, which we're talking about. Like we don't see Robert Downey's face, and I'm like, that's a small +1 for me. So I'm okay with that.
How about the last one?
You take that one. What did you think on that one?
I'm gonna say it again. If you're gonna make me sit through credits that long, it better be something, man. Give me something. Don't give me don't think you're giving me a cherry on top.
That started with Avengers 1 with the shawarma thing, and I don't know why they, honestly, there's no need to have 2. Just in this case, it was just 1. Thunderbolts and this had meaningful mid credits. Just leave it at that. It's good. It's fine. Or do what Superman did and I know you didn't like the credit stuff, but like they put the Supergirl cameo in the movie at the end. Fine, you can do it that way too if you want. But I was okay with it just because it wasn't all about RDJ's personal arrival, and maybe that's why I was kind of like the fact that it was kind of understated worked for me.
I just think they could have done it better, man. I think it felt lazy. It felt lazy.
I don't know. Okay, I'm not with you on that, but okay.
It's just I just don't see the creativity in that reveal, Anything else, Brian?
Before we give ratings, as I said, I think this movie is going to be attached at the hip to Superman for a long time. So I guess I got to ask the question: better experience, better movie. What side would you come out on? I don't think either. So first off, congrats to both studios because we were so nervous about these couple of weeks, and we did not get an egg. We did not get a dud from either side. So that's great. And it looks like we're going to have two very successful commercial movies. Wow, Superman will be successful. This looks like it's going to be at least successful. And so I was going to ask you, better movie in your opinion, better experience in your opinion. Do you think Fantastic Four can outgross Superman globally?
I think this movie can.
I agree. I think it will. Because of the non-US. Because of the non-US.
And I can take my kids.
Thank you. I saved this till the very end. The irony of all of this after the crypto discussion, this movie is far and away the more family-friendly. I mean, even the one scene, I guess, which you could argue is sort of grown up, regarding the baby is not. It's shot in a way that's kid-friendly. Even the profanity is dialed down in this movie to a bare minimum. The violence is very like comic booky. It doesn't show a lot. And oh, by the way, because this became a talking point, there's no messaging at all. Because there's nothing. This is a completely different Earth and a completely different world, and politics don't apply. And I found myself so jarred by that after what Marvel and Disney have done over the last 5 years. I was like, what studio kidnapped this movie and made it? Because it sure as hell wasn't the same Mouse House that was doing all this other stuff they were doing for the last 5 years. This movie is, hit down the dead center of the fairway to make sure there's nothing there. And between that and the family friendly, I think this is going to do bigger business and repeat business.
Yeah.
And
I want to see this movie again.
It's a better movie.
Yes.
They're different, but I'm sorry. Like, I will always ride for lean, mean. And I have to say, while the visual aesthetic of both movies is fun, I think this one looks more elevated. I think this one is crafted tighter. And because it doesn't have the gun noisiness, I think it makes it better for me. I realize there are very diehard James Gunn fans that are going to be like, James Gunn gave us everything we wanted and we're just going to ride for that. And I'm not telling you that's wrong. I'm just saying, for my tastes, the ultra gun stuff brings it down for me in the Superman world. And I don't have to deal with that here. And the cast is a push. That's the thing. Like, both casts are awesome. So like they're going toe to toe at a high level if you're doing that comparison. But Fantastic Four is hands down a better movie. To my mind, it is a more enjoyable, family-friendly movie, and I think it's going to make more money.
I think Kevin feels like he got his mojo back.
I was just going to say, I was trying to think of like the athlete like comparison. Like, this is like, the guys had the quarterback, whoever's had a couple down seasons, and then he just uncorks like a 45 touchdown, 10 intercept, and was like, I thought, don't you forget, I still have it.
This is a fun competition because these guys do like each other.
Yeah, and they root for each other. It's on now.
Yes, this is what we want. This is what we need. I'm glad this is happening because I would feel confident in being like, yo, Fantastic Four is way better than Superman. Yo. It just is. It just is, yo.
They are, like I said, but what's nice is they're not the same. I do like that they look different. I do like that the aesthetic is different. The feel, the vibe is different. But I walked out of this movie fired up, man. Superman, I felt okay. I felt good. I felt the hope. I felt that positivity, but then I felt the flaws. And as I've talked about in our shows, like the inconsistency of the gun, some of the gun propensities and some of the violence and some of the innuendo. And that's just, for me, was just little stuff that I didn't enjoy. But this movie, it was none of that. This movie, I walked out and I was like, I'm ready to turn right around and go back in.
Yeah, I want to see this movie again, yo. I want to see Galactus is worth the price of entry,
right? But so I went and saw it first, and she was dying. Yes. She's like, can I see it? And I was like, yeah, you can see this one, and you'll like it.
Yeah. Now we got to pre-screen movies when we think this is a kid-friendly
Yeah,
movie.
you got
And
to. You got to
yeah,
now because PG-13, the range of outcomes is pretty wide. So you have to, yeah. Okay, last question for you. Because MCU, 37 films in, we always talk about where does this slot in? Where does this slot in for you in the MCU annals? And actually, I'm going to give you a prelude. You can I think you will agree on this. I think there is an elite tier of 8 films that pretty much everyone's going to have in their top 10 that Marvel's produced. So no particular order. So Iron Man 1, Avengers 1, Captain America Winter Soldier, Guardians 1, Black Panther, Infinity War, Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home. I think those 8 make almost everybody, if not everyone's, top 10. I think the next 3 that get discussed, depending on your taste, are probably Thor Ragnarok, which I know for us is lower, but for a lot of people is high. Captain America Civil War. And I would say Deadpool and Wolverine probably, depending on if you... It's not, again, that's not us, but I think when you look at the box office, again, we say numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. People like that. So I think those 3 in particular are like sort of the battle. They're battling for those last 2 spots in most people's list. I couldn't think of I was like, maybe Guardians 3 for a few people, but I was like, I couldn't really think of anything else that would consistently rise into that conversation. So where do you think Fantastic Four fits into that? And if you have any others you want to add, go ahead and add, but I felt pretty safe on most of those.
If it's not up there, it's an honorable mention at least.
Because I don't think it's in the top 5 because I kind of feel like between Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1, Black Panther, and then Black
Panther for me is not
interesting. You don't have it that high. Okay, I would,
nah,
but
I don't.
But then I would say Avengers, you probably got to pick either Avengers 1 or 3 or 4. That's just variations on an amazing theme. You pick what you want. But I think that top 5 is tough to get into, and I don't think this movie gets there. But I think when you get into that 7 to 10 range, I think this movie's in that conversation.
Oh, definitely. I think absolutely it is. I think it absolutely is.
For me personally, I definitely like this better than Deadpool and Wolverine by a good margin.
Oh, hell's yeah.
And
not to say that Deadpool and Wolverine was whack or anything like that. I just enjoyed myself. I enjoyed this movie more than I did the constant fighting that led nowhere.
That's why this movie kind of feels to me like it's somewhere around that Civil War, it's just outside the hyper elite category, but it's in the what I would call when Marvel was just dealing what you would expect, which is you had almost no downside, you had lots of upside, you were going to get very entertained.
But Brian, I mean, this spoiler free. I think after we see it again, we might think otherwise, Brian, because there are things that happen in this movie.
It doesn't get in the top 5 though. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's between 6 and 10, and I'd say it's kind of feels like maybe 7, 8. But listen, to be in that conversation is to be in the conversation of movies that are unilaterally regarded and made billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So this movie probably won't make $1 billion because we don't have China anymore. It's just hard. But if this movie makes $700 million, and the reviews right now are 88% critics, 92% audience. Superman was 84% critics, 92% audience. So this movie is going into the annals as a real achievement. And I think to your point, when this thing comes on TV, there's stuff in this movie that I'm going to be hold up. If we need to go somewhere, we're going to wait 5 minutes while I watch this.
Oh, pause. Yo, there's some stuff here that's wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, yo.
Matt Shackman, man. Matt Shackman is a name I will pay attention to for a while now. WandaVision was fine, right? WandaVision was good. I don't think it's perfect, but it was good. This showed me potential I didn't believe was there. You know what it also made me think of is I actually do want to see him do a Star Trek movie now. That dude knows how to do space. So let him do Star Trek because that thing's going to look good if he does it. Yeah. Let him do Star Wars. They should have him do a Star Wars movie.
Right?
This looked better than most of the Star Wars crap that we've been getting.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of talent out there, man. There's a lot of talent out there. Hopefully, they get the right people involved to create something refreshing, suspenseful, and exciting for some of these IPs that are floundering, unfortunately.
Mm. All right, what's your rating?
But
What's your rating? We talked about the Pantheon, but like, what's your rating?
I'll have to say 4.5 stars.
We're the same. Yeah. It's not perfect. You can't give it 5, right? Like there's that level, that little extra level with the surfer and a couple of things where you're like, separates you from Winter Soldier perfection. But you're not far off, man. You're not far off. You're in the stadium. You're in the building. I can't believe it, man. I can't believe there's a Fantastic Four movie that I'm like is an elite movie. And I'm like, I can't wait for them to bring these characters back. And I hope Shackman does Fantastic Four the sequel. And I'm just like, they might be able to do a 5 with the sequel. They might be able to.
I'm still like I want to see this movie again, yo. Like yeah, like you said, I would go back and see. Like I want to see this again. Well, that is our spoiler-free review. I don't think we missed anything.
We'll get it.
I mean, we
We'll
can
come
say
back.
like the story. I mean, what did you think of the story?
Save that for spoilers. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It achieves most of what it needs to.
Yeah.
This is where we get into it's self-contained, but it builds the world. And we need to save that for the spoiler. Because you and I know, and the fans will know, like you'll pick up on the points where it's like, we see you trying to turn this mothership in this new direction that Marvel wants to go in.
So if you saw this movie, or you haven't seen this movie, if you haven't seen this movie, we recommend that you guys go definitely see this movie. Because it is jaw-dropping. The characters work. It is spectacle that Marvel hasn't achieved in quite some time. And it really, I think, sets us up for.
It restores a little bit of my faith, and I gotta throw like a little bit Thunderbolt's way because I think that was like a small step in the right direction. I don't care what the box office said. This is a Galactus-sized step in the right direction.
Recover from that, yo.
That's gonna.
I don't know how you
For folks at home, I want you to circle this and look at Pablo's face. This is his new Hulk right here.
Yeah.
This is it. This is your new Hulk for the next 10 years is going to be what happened in
Right?
Bad.
Yeah, man. That is.
They're going to try to restore the Hulk. They're going to try to restore your faith in the Hulk as they destroy your love for Norrin Rath.
I'm going to have to throw that Nicolas Cage. Shame on them. Shame on them for messing this up, yo. I don't know why you messed that up, yo. You just don't, yo. You just don't mess that up, yo. You don't go that route.
I hear you. But
you just don't do it. I'm sorry. But yeah, definitely go check out this movie and let us know after you've seen it. Let us know what you thought of it. Hit that like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gym Report.